But Mark, about this dopey idea where the government owns 40% of your house. Now, I love that they pretended it cost $375 million. It's actually going to cost $3.8 billion. But what about philosophically here, that when you sell your house, you have to give 40% of what the final price is back to the government?
Well, Paul, some of these schemes have been run at state level, and shared equity does have some potential. I can tell you it's a hell of a lot better than zero equity and living in public housing, where the government owns in its entirety the place where you live and you pay them rent. So if it can move some people from public housing into getting their foot in the private ownership door, that's not a bad thing in principle. But the thing that's been missed with this scheme is a massive loophole. And that is that it's not asset tested, and the scheme, the finance, is available to people who currently don't own a home. They might have owned homes in the past and sold them. So the loophole is you can sell your current home, put the money in the stock market, live off the dividends up to $120,000 a year, and you can then buy, with the 40% assistance of government, so about $400,000 government subsidy, a $950,000 new home in a place like Nelson Bay there at Port Stephens, classified part of regional New South Wales, Newcastle. So why would the Labor Party not asset test this thing and make it available only for first home buyers? It opens up the rort of the century, where you just sell your existing... I was talking to my son about, should we do this? Should we sell our existing home, put the money in the stock market, never have to work again, live off the dividends, up to $120,000 a year? That's pretty comfortable in a place like Nelson Bay. And government will pay $400,000 to live in a new home, and you pay, $550,000? It's pretty good going, isn't it? It's inequitable, it's a loophole. And I suppose if you ask Albanese to explain it tomorrow, someone else will step in to give the answer. I don't think there is any explanation as to how bad this loophole is.
Great point. By the way, can we get a live shot of when you make that application and Albo has to process? Oh, I've got one here from M. Latham.
Tempting. That's tempting.
We'll double check. Matt,
why wouldn't you? I mean...
It's a rule.
People aren't silly. They go to where the easy opportunities are. And I've got to say, for anyone to pretend this is an equity policy is completely delusional.
Well, what about, Matt, the idea that Albo Bank says that it's a great idea because it'll end up making money for the federal government, which means you will end up giving more back to the federal government than they gave you at the start?
Well, I don't agree with that premise. Like Mark, I'm not completely against some form of government assistance and this should be targeted at first home buyers like the government scheme is. The issue here is it's just gone too far, and that pretty much is the issue for socialists the world over, that often they have a kernel of a good idea, they just take it too far. And 40% here is enormous risk to the taxpayer, so don't accept that somehow this will be a boon for taxpayers. I mean, what's next? Are we going to bundle these up into collateralised debt obligations and mortgage-backed securities? I mean, what could go wrong, Paul? This is exactly how the subprime crisis emerged in the United States. People forget it now because a whole lot of other things happened on the back of that crisis, but it began with large government finance of organisations called Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae in the US of house purchases for people who couldn't afford it. It led to a skyrocketing house prices in the US in the 2000s, and then, of course, a just as spectacular and much more painful bust in those prices. And the federal government, our government, has made progress here on these sorts of policies, but we have a responsible scheme which underwrites lenders' mortgage insurance. It requires you to have a 5% deposit up front. My reading of the Labor policy, you'd only need to save 2% of your home, and then you could get the government to invest that 40%. This could go horribly, horribly wrong, and the impacts on it would rebound not just on those poor first home buyers who get a removal notice. It will potentially impact the whole economy like it did in the subprime crisis in the US.